Ohio State's got one final home game left, and it's today. We're headed over there after we do this video. Don't worry about what day we recorded this video. Just know that we're heading over there after we record this video. Ohio State Rutgers on Saturday at noon, and these are our game time decisions. These are the things that we want to see from the Buckeyes in the game. A lot of times it's going to be it might decide who wins the game. Unfortunately, this team is better than everybody. So for 11 weeks, all but one of those games, it's not necessarily been what's decide the game. It's just about how we want to see this team improve. We have one more week of that, Stefan. One more week of, hey, we just want to see you get better at this before the end game. What do you want to see from the Buckeyes on Saturday?
Yeah, I think this could be an interesting test for the defense. I think the defense has had some opportunities, since probably the Illinois game to be pretty vanilla with what they do. We've seen obviously against, Purdue specifically, like them rotate a lot more than we normally would. Riley Pettijohn got early snaps. We saw guys like Devin Sanchez and Aaron Scott get some opportunities. This will be interesting because I think at least at the start, Rutgers can do some things to challenge Ohio State, right? They got Duff at receiver, Ethan Kaliakmanis at quarterback, who's very, I guess, I don't know, talented is probably not the word because he wasn't like a high profile recruit, but I think he's a pretty good quarterback based on what he's produced so far this season. So I don't know how, I'm not saying Rutgers is going to put up 35 points on this Ohio State defense, but I think they are going to challenge them in ways that maybe teams like UCLA and Purdue and Penn State and Wisconsin couldn't. And I think that's a good kind of, not like a wake-up call, but like hey, you've had 4 weeks where you haven't had to do a whole ton. You haven't been challenged a whole ton. Here's some things being thrown your way. And I think Ohio State can handle that. But I think it's a nice, kind of spring back into action before you face Michigan and Indiana and everything that comes with the college football playoff. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what this Rutgers offense tries to do against this Ohio State defense. And does Ohio State, maybe have to reach deeper into its playbook a bit? Does Matt Patricia have to get a bit more creative than maybe we've seen the past few weeks? So this is this feels like the perfect kind of test for Ohio State's defense right before the schedule truly ramps up. And I'm interested to see kind of how they handle that. And if Rutgers can maybe poke some holes in some things that, teams since Illinois haven't really been able to do.
Yeah, Rutgers' defense is horrid, but this might be the most balanced offense they've faced in maybe a month and a half. And maybe like it's at the higher end of just balance of, because they've got a quarterback who can throw it a little bit. They've got a couple of good receivers and they've got a good running back. They got more balance than I think most of the teams they faced this year, regardless of what the talent level is. Gillis, what do you want to see on Saturday?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you guys knew this, but there's some stories going on about Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith and their health or lack thereof. So I'm curious whether those guys play or don't play. Bryson Rogers, Mylan Graham, Quincy Porter. Like, I want to see how those guys acclimate into the lineup. I think you saw last week, it wasn't always clean with them and Julian saying. Like, Steven commented in the press box one time, I think there was a deep ball. I think it was to Mylan, and he went, yeah, that's a deep ball for number 4, number 17. And it just happened to not be one of those guys. And I think you would like to see some of that chemistry built up because, as we have seen in these last few weeks, those guys are kind of one snap away from playing, and they are 4- and 5-star recruits. Like, how many teams across the country, like, we're talking about Rutgers and Duff, like, and him being the receiver. If Duff goes down, Rutgers is looking at their receiver depth chart and they're not so happy. And Ohio State, yes, they have the 2 best receivers in the country, but I don't think it's as bad as anything else in the country. In fact, I know it's not, because nobody else has these 4- 5-star receivers just locked and loaded, ready to go. I mean, Mylan Graham is a starter at how many schools in college football right now? Probably a lot of them. And I think I want to look at what they do on the field. I want to see how they play, because whether or not you're going to need them for Michigan, for Indiana, for maybe in the Big Ten championship game, for the college football playoff, you would like to see some growth on their part and going into 2026. Carnell Tate's probably headed to the NFL. We talked about that on our show earlier this week. Jeremiah is going to come back. We think Brandon Ennis is coming back too. Like, there's going to be some competition in the depth chart. And I'm kind of looking at one of those guys trying to separate themselves and say, like, I should be in that mix with Jeremiah and with Ennis going into 2026. So it's a short-term thing. It's a long-term thing. I want to see how those three receivers play, because even if JJ and Carnell and the trainers and everybody at Ohio State goes, we're good, let's play them, let's put them out on the field, I don't think this is a game where they're playing into the fourth quarter. And I think this is a really, really big week to get those guys some reps, because frankly, you look at what's coming down the line, I've said this a couple of times this week, this is probably the last one where you can kind of manufacture, hey, we're going to get second teamers some reps. Hey, we're going to get guys down the depth chart some reps. Because after this, probably not going to happen. So those three, Bryson Rogers, Mylan Graham, Quincy Porter, I'm looking at them and I want to see how they play on Saturday.
I want to see who plays right guard when the starters are in the game, because it was Tegra Shabola and Ethan Yao to start the season, and it became Tegra Shabola and Josh Padilla. And then Josh Padilla got hurt, and so since then it's been Tegra Shabola and Gabe Van Sickle rotating out that right guard spot. Right? They got asked on Tuesday, can you do three or is that too much? And you just, no, you got to do two. They're planning two guys, and Tegra will be one of the guys. I think that's just a fair assessment. Now, you get through these next 3 weeks and you come up for air. Can that change when you have 30 days to prepare for a playoff game? Sure. But over the next 3 weeks, it's going to be Tegra and somebody else. And I want to see who that somebody else is, because whoever it is, if the offensive starters play 6 series on Saturday, whatever the rotation is for those 6 series is going to be what the rotation is going to be for Michigan. And it's going to be what the rotation is for Indiana, because as much as this is about, okay, we might see some deaf guys get rotation, get some tick for the last time this year, at least like manufacture time this year, you also have to start ramping up for what is essentially playoff season. Michigan week and on is playoff season for Ohio State. That is the postseason. And so whatever we see from the starters, outside of wide receiver, of course, because they're dealing with some injuries, everywhere else, what you see is an idea of what it's going to look like for Michigan, for a Big Ten championship game against Indiana, for a first-round playoff game, a quarterfinal, a semifinal, or a national championship. This is what it's going to look like. And so I want to see how they handle that. Do they do what they did last week, where, Stefan, you were tracking it. It was 2 for Tegra, then 2 for Gabe Van Sickle, then 2 for Tegra, then 2 for Gabe Van Sickle. Do they do that again? Or is it 2 for Tegra, 1 for whoever's rotating with him? 1 for Tegra, 2 for who's ever rotating with him, and then another person. Probably not that third one, but I want to see who the 2 people who are playing at right guard, because that's who's going to be playing against Michigan and Indiana. And I think that is the only real question mark I have left about Ohio State is, what are they going to do there? And is it going to be good enough? Or more importantly, is it going to be enough to not get in the way of what Ohio State wants to do offensively and going on trying to win a national championship? Those are what we're going to be watching for the last time in Ohio Stadium. If things go the way that we think they're going to go, we won't be back in Ohio Stadium until next August for our official football game. I know the spring game exists. If things don't go the way we expect them to go, then maybe we'll be back here at the end of December. I guess we'll find out. But get the text, 614-350-3315. 2-week free trial, $3.99 after that. That's Stefan. That's Andrew. Ohio State, Rutgers, last game in Ohio Stadium of the 2025 regular season. See you after the game.